Today is a special day, the day of the defenders of Ukraine. So we talk about this, of course. Also, we talk about those streaks of failures of Russia. Maybe that was a Russian military plan after all. And last topic, but not least for today, Kursk incursion and plans for Ukraine to end this war with victory. And not concessions discussed in an interview with expert in military plans and victorious strategies, senior lecturer at the Royal Air Force College and a former military intelligence officer, Frank Ledvidge. Good afternoon. These topics in more detail in our daily episode with me, Henry Keane, and UATV English, doing our best as always, bringing the hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world out there, directly from Ukraine. Imagine you wake up in the morning and find out that Russia has launched more than 100 drones and missiles to kill you during that very night, yet here you are, safe and sound. Because someone has not slept day and night on their watch. Today marks Ukraine Defender Day. Today we sincerely congratulate and thank those who gave their lives for freedom and those who continue to fight for the better future and independence of Ukraine. A state without people who are ready to defend it is just a territory. Defending territory from a threat makes it a homeland. As simple as that. And so we extend our gratitude to those who defend our very lives for every new day that brings us closer to Перемога. Remember that word Перемога, which means victory in Ukrainian. For new opportunities that only the future brings. For us and our children who will live in the future in a sovereign, free and thriving Ukraine. For all that we thank you for that, our defenders, men and women. As we say, Slava Ukraini, today we think of you. We recall your names, and everyone in Ukraine has a name to recall and remember on their own. Whether you are in artillery or air defense or infantry, an engineer or a medic, a soldier or commander, reconnaissance and intelligence or a cook in the Ukrainian army, you are the army of good, where the people of Ukraine are united in existential war against dictatorship, medieval barbarity impersonated by Russia. Some of you have chosen the path of a warrior. Some were chosen by it, being ordinary people with ordinary peaceful professions before the war, doctors, teachers, journalists. Look who you became today, defenders of the future. And that future you defend today will belong to the free people of Ukraine already tomorrow.
These can be painful moments, the loss of a brother in arms with whom just a minute ago you were talking, sharing food and water in the same trench. These are also minutes of valor, combat success and victories, minutes of pride, minutes of bravery, minutes of long battles and brief sleep, minutes of warm communication with loved ones and cold nights on the front line.
There is that saying, bad times create strong people create good times create weak people, and weak people create bad times. We are certainly in the first part of this paradigm these days in Ukraine, and we say only one thing to our strongest people: thank you for your service. Glory to Ukraine, glory to our defenders. Remember that Russian gloating, Kyiv in 3 days. Not even close in 3 years. 600,000 dead and counting in Ukraine. Burning arsenals and military depots inside Russia. Sinking warships. And fighter jets just falling from the skies. Forced to leave the Black Sea. Forced to leave, at least officially, European and American markets. Rubble under the rubble. Downfall fivefold. 1,000 square kilometers of Russia is not Russia anymore. Kursk incursion onwards. Super protected military depots in Tver Oblast and Tikhoretsk are on fire. Oil refineries burn all across Russia almost every week, and obviously more to come. The Ukrainian drone reached Khabarovsk city in Russia, and that is a 3,000 kilometers range away. Just recently, Ukrainian forces struck the Koltublan military arsenal in Russia's Volgograd Oblast. The military depot was used to store and modernize missiles and artillery. Iranian-made Shahid UAVs had also been transported to this very facility shortly before the attack. General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine notes that this military facility was heavily protected by electronic warfare and air defense systems. Nevertheless, our unit successfully completed the combat mission, as the world has clearly seen. A long streaks of failure of Russian intercontinental ballistic nuclear-capable missile launches. Failure after failure. 6 out of 7 known launches failed at the very start. The prospect to nuke itself during the launch is becoming increasingly real for Russia. And all that is only the tip of an iceberg of failures that Russia actually hides from the world and from itself, especially from itself, doing its best to show off as a Soviet juggernaut while its Tsar is indicted. And the Tsar, Putin the Only, recently said that all his goals in Ukraine will be reached by February 24, 2025. Whatever that means, whatever was that, an anniversary gift from himself to himself, a delusional thinking for all that combined, I don't know, it made me wonder, what was Putin's plan before he started this war anyway? Would he back in the day do it again if he would know Ukraine clearly showed to the world today? Russia is a paper tiger losing a real war. We say hello to our dear guest tonight, senior lecturer at the Royal Air Force College and a former military intelligence officer, and we all know that there can be no former intelligence officers. Mr. Frank Ledwidge on UATV English. Hello, Mr. Ledwidge. Hello.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's something of a myth, unfortunately, this intelligence officer business. I can absolutely assure you there are very much former military intelligence officers, and I'm definitely one, but
yeah,
there we have it.
All intelligence officers I know say exactly the same thing, so isn't that strange? But
all right.
I don't know any. You're the first one, so I trust you. All right, so onwards to the questions. Well, American military aid to Ukraine and plans for the next Ramstein, all that is very important and necessary, no doubt about that. But you fall granted, is this assistance enough for Ukraine victory without, oh my God, I'm going to say it, long-range strike permission?
No, of course not. And I don't think the long-range strike weapons at this kind of scale that would be envisaged are either. So if I can deal with those now, the ATACMS, particular version of ATACMS, and of course the British Storm Shadow. The fact is that neither the Americans, nor the British, nor the French have stocks nearly adequate to the task of damaging the Russian war machine to the extent that it would be seriously reduced in capability. Now, that's simply a function of 20 years of neglect of Allied weapons systems and the displacement activity of Iraq and Afghanistan, which are totally pointless and silly, stupid, bloody messes that they were. But there we have it. As for what Ukraine is getting, it's getting, of course, a significant transfusion of important defensive weapons, not least, of course, another Patriot battery, one battery of 8 launchers. Certainly necessary. There have been losses, and that will replace those losses, or some of them. So no, it isn't enough. It's nowhere near enough. If it were to be sufficient, or were assistance to be sufficient, the instructions and orders should have been given, as I've argued many times 2 years ago, for the vast stocks of ground weaponry, and to a lesser extent aircraft, to be released from storage, where they still remain.
What it actually takes to put an end to Russian military machine is the all allies and Ukraine together winning the victory, assuring the victory. Is that what you're saying, or what do we need to do, Mr. Ledwidge? Instruct us.
I think, to be candid with you, what we need to do should have been done years ago. And it's difficult to see now how the situation, particularly with respect, we're looking here now not so much at the battlefield, but the rather, or at least the equally important element of industrial power and industrial strategy. And the West lacks industrial strategy. And that has the impact in Ukraine, of course, that the kind of gear that you need is not being made. The instructions have not been given in Germany, Britain and France to rectify their own stocks, let alone have sufficient to help Ukraine. those stocks do exist in the US, but the political will evidently doesn't, to be able to transfer the thousands of armoured vehicles and aircraft, to, probably dozens of aircraft more practically, but certainly they're present. Just need the will to refurbish them, and other capabilities from those stocks, to release those stocks to Ukraine. And that order isn't even being given now. Should have been given 2 years ago. That way Ukraine wouldn't need to worry about, certainly about replacing losses, material losses in battle. But then, of course, there's a manpower issue, which you'll be more familiar with than me, to crew those weapon systems. But no, the West has been complacent. It continues to be complacent in its defence. The only country it isn't, of course, as you well know, is Poland.
Well, yeah, I would love to talk about the fears of escalation, but let's put that as a topic of a separate discussion. Let's talk about Putin's nuclear gave, if you want, waving continues, and some say the West should react like Biden, for example, like with fear, just keep the level of Ukrainian civilians dying steady. You know, we want, here we go, we want no escalation. Some say the West should ignore that. There's all of Russian Satans and Sarmats, whatever they have, 6 or 7 can't even fly, you know. So how should the West respond to this nuclear blackmail or black threats? So these threats, what do you think?
Well, there's one decision-making body, not a decision-maker, that counts here, and only one. And that's the Biden administration. The individual, of course, is non-functional. But the administration is functional. And it made a decision that there will be no risks taken, let's say, before the election. And that's for domestic political reasons. Your Starmers or Macrons are irrelevant to this. The decision maker, partly because the weapon systems that Ukraine requires, understandably, are or contain within them significant American components, and of course some of them are American in themselves. But Starmer and Macron are irrelevant. It's the Biden administration. The Biden administration is faced with a very tough election, and that's what drives this. Now, moving down the scale of engagement into the strategic military, there's some doubt, well, it's considerable doubt as to whether Putin would use nuclear weapons, but that's not really what's coded into this. What's coded into this are other options available. So, for example, a cyber attack on, let's say, Baltimore or Denver, Colorado, or Liverpool for that matter, but probably the West, Europe is out of this, would damage Biden or Harris's prospects, no doubt about it. The escalatory ladder to nuclear is very long, but I think the Americans don't want to get on that ladder.
I can't agree more than I actually am agreeing with that part. Yes, but Russian military depots and, you know, the oil refineries are on fire constantly, and more to come. So the Kursk is Russia no more. But Russia continues to push in the Donetsk region anyway. Putin said recently that all the goals of his criminal adventure in Ukraine that he calls war will be achieved by the anniversary of it, which is February 2025. So he thinks like to buy off some more of Donetsk Oblast today, so to trade it back for Kursk later. Why?
Well, conceivably, as far as Putin has set any identifiable objectives in the war, as you hint, that is Luhansk and Donetsk. And I seriously doubt whether Russia will be in any position to call that a day. And by February next year, on current pressure, but nonetheless, that's their objective.
All right. Well, today is the day of the defenders. I won't ask any more questions, but I will ask you one more thing. Can you please address to the brave defenders of Ukraine maybe a couple of words to encourage them?
Yes, you're fighting in a just cause, as you well know, and you're in a long tradition of Ukrainian and other nations' defenders in so doing. And you've got the support of your comrades here and in every other free country. And you know that, and if you don't know it, you should know it, because it's true.
Mr. Latvich, thank you so very much for your time and for your expertise. Again, I have a lot of questions, especially in terms of weaponry and everything, maybe next time. But this time, thank you so very much and hope to talk to you very soon.
With very great pleasure. It's an honour. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Goodbye. Well, that was it for this episode and today. Thank you so very much for your time. It was me, Henry Keane, and UATV English, my team, as usual. We did our best to deliver the hard truth in easy terms for you out there. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Don't be shy. In return, because your voice really matters, it helps our voice, Ukrainian voice, to be heard worldwide. Stay safe and tuned for more glory to Ukraine and everyone who stands with us. Goodbye.